observatories is an instrument that's been attached to the outside of the International Space Station since 2019. And so it's easy to flip that instrument on or off based on the budget decisions here on Earth. It's the satellite that really makes things tricky. If the Trump administration were to go forward with decommissioning that satellite, what it would mean is essentially that it would re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. That's what satellites do when they're decommissioned. And so that's what's really at the core of it here, Danny, in terms of the decision that's going to be made over the next few weeks here.
Kristen, can you run through some of the impacts that might come from this? Because I understand, of course, scientists will be impacted, but also farmers rely on climate data for their crops, for example.
Yeah, so I think what's really important to point out here is that this is not just the kind of science that benefits the United States, right, Danny? I mean, this is stuff that truly benefits the entire world, people all over the world. And so what these observatories, this satellite and this instrument do is they were able to detect that the Amazon rainforest, for instance, emits more carbon dioxide than it absorbs. Really some key data points for climate scientists. Another thing that these observatories can do is they can detect photosynthesis, which helps predict droughts and potential food shortages around the globe. So those are the kinds of incredible things that these satellites can do. The question is, does it align with the Trump administration's current priorities, which, as you know, are all about human spaceflight and human exploration? The argument that NASA scientists are making that are involved in these programs is they're saying, look, the taxpayer has already footed most of the bill for this satellite and instrument, hundreds of, tens of millions of dollars here. It costs a very small amount of money to keep them operational once they're up in space or attached to the International Space Station. So really, there is more money that needs to be invested and funded in order to keep these things up and running, but it's really minuscule compared to the investment that taxpayers have already made.
Right, you imagine that the cost of getting it up there, building it, doing all the research to get it into space, that's the front end of that cost. Kristen, is there any possibility, though, of saving some of these instruments through maybe a partnership with one of the more private space companies that we're seeing?
Sure, or perhaps a billionaire. I mean, I'm not going to throw this person, one person, in comes to mind, Jared Isaacman, right? This is somebody who was, the president appointed him to be NASA administrator. That appointment was later withdrawn, but Jared Isaacman said afterwards that there were certain things that he was considering funding even if the Trump administration would decide not to fund it. Now, I'm not saying Jared Isaacman has said anything about these specific satellites or instruments, but there is a world where somebody like that could come in and perhaps rescue them. Or look, Congress could come in and say, we're not going to do this. Right now, there is a House bill that would align with the White House's objectives and get rid of these climate monitoring satellites and instruments, but a Senate version preserves it. So really the question now is, can Congress get one of these bills passed before the current funding runs out? At the moment, it looks like that's probably not going to happen, but there are certain stop gaps or mechanisms that could be deployed in order to keep these things up and running until a final bill is passed, Danny.
Well, Kristen Fisher, thank you as always for breaking that down.